Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed for Business Tomorrow. Would you mind telling myself and the audience a bit about yourself?
Of course. So my name is Hannah. I completed my bachelor's degree at University of Toronto, and right now I'm completing my master's of bioethics at Harvard Medical School. And I'm really excited to be here with you today, talking about innovation, health, medicine, and how this all can blend together. So, right now I'm working on a startup called HerPulse with my friend Ginu as another co-founder, and we're so excited about how the future of this startup is going to look like.
I'm really excited. I was reading about it myself and it seems so interesting. And there's so many things that I personally am passionate about that I'm interested in learning more about your work. So just like as some general questions, how did you end up in this healthcare related field? What was the path to getting to this point?
So I've been volunteering for a while with people older than 65 years old that are struggling with dementia. And I'm just one of the co-founders. The other co-founder, Jinu, she's also working at a hospital right now. So while working with these populations, we understood that women's health is always overlooked. We
Mhm.
always learn this in theories and classes, like for example, in biology classes or in psychology classes, that women's health, physical and mental health, is usually overlooked. But it's different when it comes to practice. And while thinking of different ideas that we're exploring, we told ourselves, why not work on women health?
Mhm.
Especially because both of the founders of Her Pulse are women. We thought this is a really great opportunity to work on women's health. So, I was working with elder population,
Mhm.
and interestingly, cardiovascular disease is always one of the leading causes of death among women in many countries, especially for the postmenopausal women. So this is how we got into healthcare field and how we got interested in actually building Her Pulse as a really friendly tool.
That's really interesting, especially because I think healthcare equality is something that a lot of people, think about conceptually, but there's not a lot of necessarily room to enter into the field. But you did that, and what specifically, maybe your relationship with your co-founder led you to founding HerPulse in specificity? I know that there's a lot of AI analytics and tools that go into the company. Would you mind telling us more about that?
Of course. So, as you know, personalizing medicine has been really one of the hot topics in recent years, which means that we have different solutions and treatments for different kind of diseases or disorders, but lots of them are not personalized, which means that it's not just specified to any person's conditions or their comorbidity with other diseases. It's just like some guidelines that we are applying to everybody. And having a tool that it can enter your heart rate or other physical metrics every day and get some personalized insight was where we thought AI can be useful
Mhm.
because it's hard to always report to your doctor every day what's happening with your body. And just using a simple tool to enter your physiological metrics and get some good results is something that we believe can be so helpful.
That's really, really interesting. So, you guys have connections with doctors and other people in the field to help facilitate this growth?
So right now we're just developing our prototype, which means that we have not yet tried our tool
Right.
for like testing. But in the future, of course, we're gonna talk with different patients and doctors to see if they are interested in using our tool.
That's really cool. Specifically about you, how do you think your studies in bioethics contributed to your work? I also have a background in philosophy to some degree, and so I think it's really interesting that aspect is building into a company is working mainly with AI. And so I'm wondering how that you think contributes.
Of course. So for me, the field of bioethics is the why behind our healthcare decisions.
Right.
So you learn about patient autonomy, you learn about fairness, and you learn about different ethical principles. But you also learn to think about the reason behind different decisions that we make about our patients.
Mhm.
And this has been something really helpful with HerPulse because I believe like the things that I'm learning about the rights of patients or the problems that is going on in healthcare is going to be really useful in actually further improving and designing our tool. And also, I believe like bioethics, it's not how about to do things right, it's
Mhm.
about to do the right thing. So actually take action in order to solve the problems that you're caring about is what bioethics teaches you.
Mhm. That's so interesting. For people looking to develop a startup or something tech-based in healthcare, do you think the bioethics is an appropriate path or something that is really significant in order to help achieve that later?
So the good side of innovation is that you can enter it from any field. There have been people building their startups from with like backgrounds in chemistry, with backgrounds in population health, with backgrounds in bioethics. This is the beautiful side of innovation. It's very welcoming and you can enter it from any kind of field. For
Mhm.
me specifically, bioethics has been truly helpful because you learn about different violations of ethical principles as well as the systems that are working well. And this helps you to actually bring ethics to innovation. So when we talk about business ethics, some people think that, oh my God, these two words are too contradictory,
Right.
business and ethics. But learning bioethics actually changes you as a person, I think.
Mhm.
And this is not just through a graduate program, or this is not just through institutions. Actually, I believe most of the learning happens outside institutions and outside classes when you start interacting with people and hearing their needs.
That's really, really interesting. Wow. I guess I had never really conceived of that perspective before because I think when we talk about health and tech, it's very academic and it's very scientific. But obviously, like patient care, those relationships and doing the right thing in within those relationships is the most important part. I'd love to jump in a little bit now into the specifics of her pulse. I know, so as we spoke about a little, it specializes in cardio health. And you shared a little bit about why that might be. Can you just like expand on that a little bit more?
Of course. So as I mentioned before, cardiovascular health can be the leading cause of death among women in many countries. And specifically, as you said, one of the problems that we have in the health tech is that the medical terminologies are so hard for some of the people to understand.
Right.
So doctor is providing you some recommendations, and you are also receiving some medications, but at the same time, you can't understand what's happening to your body because it's so hard. Even sometimes students themselves struggles to understand some of the terminologies used in different articles.
Mm.
So I believe that innovation or startups overall can be so helpful in bridging this gap. So you can actually bring simple language and simple tools to use. So
Mhm.
for example, let's say that my grandmother has some kind of cardiovascular problem. It's going to be so hard for her to go out and read different articles on, like, for example, what to eat or what habits to develop.
Right.
So this is where the health tech can be so helpful and bring more help to the people who need them. And
Mhm.
as we know, knowledge translation is getting really, really important in recent years,
Yeah.
which means that academics should also involve in initiatives to try to explain complex situations or complex concepts in simple language. So this is why I think HerPulse can be really impactful because it brings simple to use and simple to understand information.
Do you think that that's what makes her pulse different from other cardio measurement systems? It's specifically that simplicity?
Yeah, of course. We're trying to design our tool as user-friendly as possible and as simple as possible so that any person with any background of technology knowledge or like medical knowledge can use it. And I think this is one of the very important parts of HerPulse when it comes to market.
Wow, that's very interesting. I'd hopefully love to like jump now into talking about a startup as a whole. And we are primarily a business-focused magazine. Obviously, we're looking at every single industry, but for young people, especially people who are just leaving undergrad or newly graduates, they're looking to jump into the startup industry, and you did that. So, what do you think is the most difficult part of that process?
I think the most difficult part of the process is balancing different tasks that come with it. You
Right.
should build your team, you should look for funding. You should look for funding, you should build your team. You should at the same time make sure that you're going in the right path, your tool or your product is working. And of course, you need to learn how to communicate with different people. So sometimes you're communicating with the person who's going to use your product. Sometimes you're communicating with the person who's going to buy your product.
Right.
Sometimes you're communicating with the person who is going to give you some funding. So it's like different types of communications that you learn in process, but it's completely normal to feel stressful or anxious at the first. For example, with your first pitch. It's so hard to actually communicate with different people when you're at the very early stages of your startup. But this is something that you learn in process, and I think this is one of the most enjoyable parts of it.
That's really cool. And I know that it's you and one other person are the founders. Do you think that having like a strong relationship with the people that you're working with is crucial to this development?
Yeah, of course. Like I have known the other co-founders you knew for some time, and we have also worked on other projects together. So I believe that that was part of a team building, that
Yeah.
knowing each other personally is something that truly helps because then you understand what your goals are or what your needs are. It's a little bit harder when you are like starting with like complete strangers, the people who don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bit harder, and it may work some for people, but I found it easier to actually build that strong connections with the team of people who I'm working with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, I would say. What, in your whole experience, do you think has been the most fulfilling part for you?
So recently, Her Pulse had a collaboration with Center for Entrepreneurship
Hmm.
for one of the courses that actually have some student interns. And
Okay.
I believe working with students who are new to startups or like are just exploring some ideas in innovation and market, it's really, really enjoyable because that's the time that sometimes you see yourself
Right.
in the earlier parts of your journey. And you think that, wow, I've came so far and I can make it even better and better. And I can provide help to people who are just like me starting their journey.
Hmm.
So I believe this is one of the best parts of it.
Hmm.
And helping other people, other students who are interested in just entering startups or entering the market and innovation is just something that I find so enjoying.
So you just think like the collaborative aspect generally from what we're talking about is really beneficial both to the actual development and also your own personal experience. And I think that that's something that a lot of people might take away from this conversation is, focus on the people and and be people oriented no matter what you're working with or what you're creating. That is something that is the case throughout the whole industry.
Exactly. Like becoming an active listener is actually what makes you different and what makes you
Right.
unique. Because then you can actually understand what people need, how your product, your tool, or whatever you're working on can help people. You need to actually first listen to the people who you're working with and
Mhm.
then listen to the people who are going to use your product. So these two are very different. First of all, understanding the needs and expectations of your team, and then understanding the needs and expectations of market and people who are going to use it.
That's really interesting. Do you have like something like that, like other skills that you think are necessary for this process that you might tell other people that they might need to build up in order to enter this universe?
So the beautiful part of innovation is that you usually work in teams, which means that so you have some strengths and you have some weaknesses. And this is also true about other members of the team, and it can help each other in the journey. So,
Mhm.
like for example, I have really strong social skills and I can speak well in the public, but at the same time, I sometimes struggle with business concepts or, for example, market research. This
Mhm.
was where I tried to develop my skills and make myself better in these aspects. And working in teams actually helps you to learn and grow as a person.
Mhm.
So I was helping, for example, with our pitch and our actually presentations.
Mhm.
And then Jeannie was more helping with like the research side of thing, understanding different concepts that are there, for example, the business plan and all those important terminologies.
Mhm.
And one of the other things that can help you in the process of learning is using the resources that are available to you, no
Mhm.
matter what university you are studying in or even sometimes high schools, they always have a hub or they always have a center for entrepreneurship. And that's where you can find lots of events and lots of fundings and lots of opportunities. So Center for Entrepreneurship at U of T, for example, have lots of different workshops, have lots of different programs for actually improving your skills. And I've used them multiple times.
Yeah.
So
Did you
really
use
help.
them while you were in undergrad at U of T?
Yeah, I use them both before graduation and after graduation. So beautiful part of U of T is that even as an alumni or even as someone who has actually graduated, you can still use the resources.
That's wonderful. What's like an example of one resource that you think was most like beneficial to you?
So I've actually participated in a workshop called Social Entrepreneurship Resources at U of T Library,
Mhm.
and we were actually going through different grants, fundings, opportunities, accelerators, networking events, and just how to find them in the website and how to find them in the Center for Entrepreneurship or other programs at U of T. So this was one of the examples that I found really, really helpful, and it was pretty recent. I think it was just like 2 or 3 weeks ago
Oh, wow.
as an online event. And I think it's really important to always be open to whatever the journey brings to you and try to learn the most.
That's really, really cool. I think that a lot of people are going to learn a lot from this experience, especially at U of T. I think it's sometimes hard in undergrad to like be able to perceive what the right resources are. And so hearing them from other people who will be a mentor in any capacity, even if it's just through a conversation that will eventually being published, that's really helpful for a lot of people. To end us off, do you have any other advice that you might want to offer with your own expertise and your own experience regarding going into the healthcare industry or just startups in general?
If I want to have an advice, for example, to the purest version of me, so to my younger self or to other students who are just starting their journey, is that don't be scared to try new ideas. No
Mhm.
matter if you think that, oh my God, this is too big for me, or this is not going to work at all. I would say try it and let it fail. That at least you show that you're trying for it. Don't let that aside. You don't know. It can't fail. It can't go to success. Both are possible. But at the same time, just not letting yourself to enter the journey, not letting yourself to try something because you believe you're not qualified enough is actually wrong. And before starting Her Pulse, I sometimes had some beautiful ideas in my mind, but I was not confident enough to just start working on it. And I
Right.
believe that that would be super helpful if I had some confidence in myself and I would have tried to actually start sooner. So there is no rush. Actually, we are not in a competition. Everybody is competing with themselves, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, you don't want to lose opportunities just because you think you're not qualified enough.
That's really wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to me and with Business Tomorrow. Hopefully, a lot of people are going to learn a lot from this conversation. I'm really grateful.
Great.
Thank you.